Welcome, everybody, and welcome to a pandemic episode of What's Brewing. Along with Joe Sixpack, I'm Glen Macnow, me in my home in Havertown, Don in Roxborough. How you holding up there, Joe Sixpack? You're muted. You are muted. Got to get your volume on. All right. Well, we'll work out the details. Neither he nor I is a professional engineer, but we do try to bring you entertainment during this time. And so we are delighted to be with you today as we talk things all about beer. And we're going to have Todd Zolecki of MLB.com, who has just written a great book on Roy Halladay. He's going to join us coming up. Todd is a great beer man. How you doing, Joe Sixpack?
I'm here, Glenn. Sorry about that. Six things at once, but I'm so happy to hear that Todd's going to be with us today. I haven't read the book yet, but I've been looking forward to it. Baseball season, I'd love to get into a good baseball book.
Yeah, Todd's a really good writer. He covered Halladay when he was here, so he knew him very well, and got very good access doing the book to the family, to other players, and so on. And it's a terrific job. All right, let's start with the beer swap as we always do. Do me a favor, tell me what you are drinking today. Okay,
Glenn, I have a nice 12-ounce can of Summer Blonde from River Horse. This is
I haven't had one of those myself.
Right, all right. So I think this is just a really fine beer. I know a lot of people they sort of scoff at blonde ales these days because they think of them as being not particularly interesting. They're not very hoppy. They're not strong. This is only 4.5% alcohol, poured in my nice What's Brewing glass.
Oh, that's nice. That looks great.
I love this beer just because it is really, really well made as a blonde ale. Just lots of flavor, a little sweet, but very, very refreshing. It's just a fantastic beer. I guess this is part of River Horses. They're out in Jersey. It's part of their regular portfolio, but I believe that they make a big push of it in the warmer months.
All right. Well, I got a special beer today. This is April was the 6th anniversary. Good stuff, huh?
It is. It is.
Good. April was the 6th anniversary of the opening of the first Conshohocken Brewing Company place out in Conchi. So this is just released today. Hopefully you can see without too much reflection. It's 6. It is a Belgian-style Brut IPA, bottle conditioned 6th anniversary beer. As you can see, I gotta open it this way.
You did not pre-open. Usually on our show we pre-open them because
I know. I'm gonna pull the cork here. Okay. It says here on the release, champagne-like dryness. There we go. Depth of flavor from the Sriracha Ace hops combined with the natural combination makes this incredibly drinkable. And I will show you in my Eagles mug.
That's a foamer. Yeah.
There you go. Nice and light. Well, it's not a very good pour. I will.
Well, it says I have a bottle here too. Our pal Scott from the brewery dropped it off in that rainstorm last night. I was very thankful for that. And it's listed as a Belgian Brut IPA, which is a style I've never had before. I'm going to give it a shot after the show, but it seems to me that it's probably more of a dry version of a.
It is. You taste the Belgian, but it's not as. It's a little lighter than that, 6.7 ABV. What else can I tell you about it? Oh, for people who've bought the punch cards during the pandemic to kind of help keep the brewery going, you show your punch card and you can redeem a punch for a bottle of this.
Oh, nice.
So that's a good thing.
How's that punch card thing work, Glenn? Is it you just go and
you buy in advance, $50, $100, I think of the denominations, and you basically can redeem it for more beer than the value of that once things get going. Although now we have the takeout at 4 of our 5 places, so you can enjoy that as well.
That's neat. That's neat. Well, I look.
It's nice. It's nice and dry, but it's got a lot of depth of flavor to it. So really good. All right, Joe Sixpack, I'm about to commit a federal offense here. You see this nice, clean, empty mug?
I do.
All right. Ice cubes.
All right.
Got that?
Okay.
This is that fine beer I was drinking a moment ago.
Oh man.
Oh no! Arrest that man. I do this for a reason, and you and I did a mini episode of this and decided, like, let's discuss it some more. Beer on ice is a thing now. It's an abomination, but I have a couple of friends who do it. My friend Joe Chaga, my friend Norton Cavergas, how's that for a name? Do it, and they say it helps them stay hydrated. Your thoughts as a beer man? I'm going to take one sip just to show.
All right.
Ruined it right there.
Okay. I'm trying to figure out that whole hydration thing. Does that mean that are they swallowing the ice cubes? Oh,
I guess the logic is that I'm going back to the real stuff. I guess the logic is that by having the old axiom, if you drink a glass of water for every drink you drink, you will not get drunk as fast. You won't have the hangover. So they're just cutting out the middleman and putting the ice cubes directly in the beer.
That's sheer idiocy, okay? Besides being heresy. I mean, come on. That's, I could make a lot of jokes about cutting out the middleman, but the fact is, you ruin your beer, I think. That, although I would imagine that, lighter lagers that need to be chilled down, and if you're going to drink them pretty quick, I don't think you would notice the difference that much. I know a lot of people like those ice in their beer, special lagers, in light lagers, but it just has never been for me. We joked around it on the show, and actually, Glenn, and you're falling off the camera, by the way.
I'm sorry. You know what? I'm looking. Excuse me for doing that. I'm looking to see what people are drinking, which is on a different screen, because we always like to say that. Steve Crispy, bear with me, is having a Broken Goblet banana bread saison. Wow. That sounds good. Yeah, how about that? Let me see who else is having. Bob Banash is having a Ring the Bell Pilsner by Conchi Brewing. I appreciate that. Anthony Sartiano is having a lazy, pardon me for falling off the screen, New England IPA from Susquehanna Brewing. We'll continue to read those, and I'll continue to disappear. But go ahead. Let's talk about the ice in the beer a little more. All
right. So we joked about it because we on our little episode, because we were we mocked the taste, but you actually brought up a good point, and that was, well, what if you added a beer ice cube to the beer? And we talked about that because I know that you have somewhere on you've added, or you when you drink whiskey, you add those stones.
I'll bring those in a moment. Yeah.
Okay. But you had suggested also maybe a ice cube made out of beer. So we didn't do it on that show, on that episode. However, we prepared this time, and I have made beer ice cubes.
Oh, that's a hefty ice cube.
This is a big ice cube. This is, and one of the things was I made it overnight. It is, this is actually the Yingling Flight, the new light beer. So
yeah,
it froze pretty quickly because it's low alcohol. All right, so I'm going to pop this into a couple of these into a mug.
Yeah.
And I'm going to pour a lager. In this case, it's a beer I'm very familiar with. It's the Homegrown American lager from Victory. I'm sorry if this is heresy. Please forgive me. I love this beer. So if it's being ruined, I don't know. But we're going to give this a shot and see how well this works. At the end of the show, we're going to test the beer and see how good it is. This is a warm beer, by the way. So
okay,
if it works, well, maybe we've invented something new. I don't know. Anyway.
I think it's a good idea. So let's see how that goes. Good work. My son was in Vietnam last year. And he said in Vietnam, it's basically the way you get beer. Now, there's reasons for that there. It's 125 degrees every day, and refrigeration isn't very good.
Right.
And generally what they drink over there, at least in that part of Asia, are light lagers, right? So to me, it's less offensive with a light lager than it would be with an IPA or a saison or a stout, something with a lot of body. And I think you get an exemption once the temperature reaches 100 degrees.
Yeah, I think you can. I mean, geez, beer is for refreshment, and you can't. Nobody wants to drink a 90-degree beer on a 100-degree day. You want some
right
there. So I can understand that, but we here in Philadelphia actually have refrigerators.
Yes, yes, we do. So let me show you this. You mentioned these stones I got, and this is them. Hopefully you can see this.
Show us your stones, Glenn.
These are, there you go. These are metal ice cubes that you put in the freezer, and they retain the cold for a long time. So I'm taking them out. I've got, here you go. This is my Conchi 6. I'm going to put them in the glass here, hopefully without breaking the glass. As you can see now, I got that, and that'll work. I do this with Scotch. They're stone. I mean, the way when you say Scotch on the rocks, you know, the way rocks originally got named was those were the cold rocks that they would pull out of the riverbed and put them in their boot. Oh yeah, no, that's true.
This is why viewers tune in to What's Brewing, for that kind of
good education.
Knowledge.
Yeah, I mean, you know, whiskey, Scotch, whatever on the rocks actually originally was rocks that they would pull out of a cold river. And I've essentially done that. And here we go. It's cold. And I'll bet you this stays cold for a good long time. And it's better than ice cubes. There have been some food critics who have actually said the ice cube thing works. David Chang, who has a show on Netflix. Yeah, you don't like him at all.
I don't like the guy. The guy's, you know, he says he would rather drink a PBR than a good craft beer. So that's all I need to know about his flavor and his taste.
But one of the things he said is, I put ice in my Pepsi. I put ice in my iced tea. Why is it any different putting ice in beer?
Because it's beer. I mean,
I'm gonna cheat over here and look and see who's drinking. Some things. Jim Reynolds is having a Hip Check Lager. You know that beer?
I love that beer. That's from Victory. Okay, don't put an ice cube in it. That's a great beer. It's a Czech style pilsner. It's wonderful. Absolutely.
Katie Ann is having a Tonewood Monotone Mosaic, and her husband is having a Tonewood Fuego. I'm a big fan of those Tonewoods. We had them on the show a few times.
You know, during the quarantine or the pandemic, I haven't seen as much. Well, I don't see a lot of beers these days, but yeah. I don't know how much Tonewood is making it into my neck of the woods in the city.
Rich Stewart is having a Stouts Gear Shifter IPA. And Dave,
yeah.
And John Durstein is having a Cape May Devil's Reach. I think we've had that on the show as well. That's good stuff.
We have. It's a Belgian style golden ale. Quite good.
All right. So let's talk about some things that are going on right now in the business during the pandemic. Get to some newsy notes here while we wait to talk to Todd. The Brewers Association is out with some guidelines for reopening. This is important stuff. The governor is getting involved in when places can reopen. What's the latest that you've got?
Well, the Brewers Association, it's true, they came out with this really long list of guidelines. And it's interesting it's great advice for any brewery taproom that wants to reopen. And regardless of what, you know, where your state is, it's good information when you eventually do decide to open. But given some of the restrictions that they're talking about, I wonder really how much it's going to change the landscape of bars and brewery tap rooms in the future. Among other things, they're talking about social distancing in tap rooms. And I'm trying to get my head around that, but basically setting up tables and chairs and bar stools 6 feet apart from each other. And you know, think about that. What is that? That would destroy, in my mind, the whole fabric of a bar room. I mean, it's idiocy. You got to talk to the guy next to him. You don't want to shout to him. You know, it's about community in a bar, and that is not community.
No, I'm very concerned about that, because I do think that you go hang out at a place for the atmosphere, and if the place is empty, you probably don't want to go there. And if the place is limited to 20% capacity, which is what I heard they may start with, it's going to be a little strange going there. And it will hurt the places that rely less on food and just on drink. Because if you're going there for a meal and you're with your party doesn't have to sit 6 feet apart. Your party can sit at a table. It won't bother you so much if you're eating a meal. But as you say, if you're sitting at the bar watching a game and you got to go, hey, how about that play Bryce Harper made?
Right.
It's going to take a lot away.
It's not going to work. It's just, it takes away that whole community aspect, that the whole bringing together of people that bars are so well known for. The other thing is that, you know, they're going to be putting down tape lines and X's and things like that. I mean, you know, a bar is really is a casual place. You don't want to see a whole lot of rules there. I can see some rules, but
Yeah.
you know, big lines and X's and such are just going to sort of, they're a buzzkill.
Yeah, they are. You know, it will be interesting when it begins that you can go out a little bit. I think everybody's going to be so stir crazy that they're going to want to do it. But if this becomes, and I hate the phrase the new normal because it's so overused and I don't even know what normal, that'll never be normal to me. But if the new normal becomes that in a 90-seat bar, you've got 18 people max, I think that's not going to work, and hopefully that's going to change. Anything else in those rules that struck you?
I think that what strikes me is that the Brewers Association, and I imagine brewers themselves, are taking it very seriously. They know that this is, you know, they're going to be sort of front line on this thing. So the steps that they're taking, the things like cleaning in between and off hours, the making sure of staff knowing the rules, they're very serious about that, and I give them a lot of credit for coming up with these guidelines.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll see. All right. Hot Rod Matt is drinking a 2019 Pine Salt. No, he's not. It's a good joke. I appreciate the effort. John Curley is drinking a Troon Exclusionary Rule.
That's another Jersey beer. I wonder where he got that, because, I mean, I think you can only get that at the brewery up there in central Jersey, I guess it is.
Okay. Jason Kinney, is having an Isle of Q Brewing while enjoying us. And Joe Moria is having a Hepius Double IPA from La Cabra. Nice. And Jim Sweeney's just enjoying himself with a nice, easy Guinness.
Good.
So all those are nice choices, and we love when people check in and tell us what they're doing. We appreciate you listening. All right. Workhorse Brewing's got it.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I almost forgot about our friends at Workhorse. They have come up with a new initiative, the Raise Your Glass Initiative. Each Monday, you go to the brewery there and buy beer at their King of Prussia location, really fine brewery. And each Monday when you pick up a 4-pack, which is, or a case, they're going to contribute $1 or $6 if it's a case towards a group of local charities that are basically supporting vulnerable local residents in Upper Merion Township, a domestic violence agency, and an anti-hunger network. And in addition to the $1 you spend there, Workhorse is going to toss in another $1 as well towards this. They're hoping to raise lots of money. It begins on Monday. That's the Raise Your Glass Initiative. You should go to their website and check out they put together a nice little video about it.
Nice job by Workhorse. By the way, these stones, man, they are keeping this thing ice cold.
Really? I would try that.
Might be my new move.
Somewhere around here. So I might give that a shot.
Okay. Let me know when Todd checks in. We're going to be talking
here, but I wanted to say we're going to put him on the show right now. But in the meantime, afterwards, we promoted this on our Facebook feed earlier, which I called Bar Doohickeys. There's things that you've got around your bar. You can see a lot of stuff I've got behind my bar here, and I'm going to show off a few things, and you're going to show off a couple things. But we want our viewers to also, if you got something in your bar that you want to share, take a quick picture of it and share it here on our Facebook feed during this show. And we're going to show a couple, some of our viewers doohickeys as well. But let me quick add Todd here. We'll see how seamless this goes. And I see his picture coming in, and he's connected to audio. Let me unmute him. There we go. And yes.
There we go.
There he is.
There
hey, Todd, how are you?
We did it.
We're good. Todd Zolecki covers baseball for MLB.com, covers the Phillies specifically. He is the author of a new book, currently available, I believe, on Amazon and everything else, called The Life of Roy Halladay, which I just finished early this afternoon. It's terrific. Todd, you did a great job with it.
I really appreciate that. I spent all last year working on it, which is crazy to do during a baseball season. We had our daughter last May, but that makes me very happy that you liked it, because I put a lot of time and effort into it.
Well, I think you're going to have a big seller. If people want to get it, when does it hit the stores? How can people get it now?
So the official release date is May 19th. That's for hardcover. Apparently, you can get it on, if you read on it, like to read on a tablet, you can get it on May 5th, which is next week.
Yeah.
Some people that bought it directly from the publisher, Triumph Books, they've already gotten their copies. So it's kind of like officially May 19th, but depending on where you buy it, you can get it right now. So.
And you know what? Everybody is stuck at home. Reading a book is a great idea. Joe Sixpack, as you know, every time somebody joins us on the show, we ask them. Usually, we have them bring beer for us. We could not have that today. But Todd, what are you drinking?
All right, so I'm drinking. This is not a Philly beer. It's Maui Brewing Company Bikini Blonde Lager, and there's a little bit of a story behind this. So if I can tell it.
First, where did you get it? Did you get it locally?
I did not get it locally. That's part of this story.
All right,
so,
okay.
So this is so I'll try to make it as short as possible. My wife and I were lucky enough to go to Maui twice. Once before we were married. Once before we had our son. We loved it. We drove the road to Hana one day. On the way back, we stopped at the brewing company, and we were tired. We were hungry. Like, let's go there, get a couple beers. I love the place. I love the beer. So the rest of the trip, all I drank was Maui Brewing beer. The second time we went, all we drank was there because you can't get it in Pennsylvania, Jersey, or Delaware. So I almost have never had it since our last trip to Maui. So go back to March. Spring training gets canceled on a Thursday. Jim Salisbury from NBC Sports Philly and I are going to drive back on that Sunday to Philly from Clearwater. My wife says, hey, maybe you could stop at some grocery stores before you drive back, maybe get some supplies. I said, you know what, that's a great idea. I logged on to Maui Brewing Company's website, in the Clearwater zip code, found that they sold it down there, loaded up about a case and a half worth of it, and drove it back up to Philly. So I've been rationing these because once they're gone, they're gone. I guess you can get them in Maryland, so I'm going to crack it open and start having it.
So you're like a beer prepper, Todd, right?
I'm a beer prepper. I'm absolutely a beer prepper, but I'm not a beer expert, but the beers I tend to like the most are beers that kind of take me to certain places and certain memories and experiences. And this is, this Maui beer is definitely one of them. So cheers to you guys.
Cheers,
Joe Sixpack. Cheers to you. Joe Sixpack, I drink and love Presidente beer for almost the same reason. I was down in the Dominican one winter covering winter baseball. I had that Presidente lager. It's 1,000 degrees down there. You get an ice cold Presidente, and I still, whenever I can get one, it brings back the good memories.
Yeah, it's exactly right. So like, I grew up in Wisconsin, New Glarus Brewing Company. It's a small brewery. They make some great beers. You can only get them in Wisconsin. So every time I go home, I try to get myself a Spotted Cow, a Moon Man.
Right.
Those are the type of beers I tend to like the most, even if they're probably maybe better versions of it somewhere else. Hey, that doesn't matter to me.
Mm-hmm. Let me just chime in with some things that our audience is drinking right now. Mike Monteleone has his last Trillium launch beer, kind of what you're saying. Yeah. Trillium out of Massachusetts is an iconic place. We appreciate he's having his last with us. Mike Keller is easing it in with a Fathead Sunshine Daydream Session IPA. Nice work by him. And Patty DeCesare. Oh, no. She just talks about ice and beer as a abomination. We did that before you came on. Let's talk about your book a little bit. As I said, I read it and I really liked it. The theme of the book seems to be this guy's quest for perfection, his drive. And throughout the whole thing, that just seems to me that he wanted to be better and better and dedicate himself. Everybody knows he was a devotee of Harvey Dorfman and that mind. I don't want to call it mind games. What do I want to call it?
Mental skills.
Yeah. Talk about, if you would, kind of his evolution from a young player to a guy who just dedicated himself to really winning the mental game.
Yeah, so, he was kind of bred to be a baseball player. His dad really pushed him hard growing up. And, he felt he started to develop a lot of internal pressure that way to kind of make people happy. So he gets drafted in the first round by the Blue Jays. He has some success. He comes up at 98. His second start in the big leagues, he almost throws a no-hitter. 1 out away from throwing a no-hitter to his second big league start. So now, of course, everybody's like, this guy's going to be the next Roger Clemens. Like, he's going to be a super stud. And then 2 years later, the 2000 season, Roy Halladay has a 10.64 ERA. To this day, it's still the single season highest ERA in baseball history.
Yes.
And I point this out in the book. Like, you know, you hear that, you go, oh, that's pretty bad. But then you go, Hall of Famers don't have seasons anything remotely close.
Right.
Even in their worst seasons, Hall of Fame pitchers are never close to that bad. We're talking about one-and-done guys, journeymen, guys with pitching with torn rotator cuffs. Those are the seasons that are right below that list. So now his confidence is shattered. He's next spring training, he shows up. Make a long story short, is he gets sent down to A-ball. And he's like, he's months away from being a first-round bust. But he decides at that point, instead of trying to make other people happy, instead of putting all this internal pressure on me, he was going to do it for himself. He found the Harvey Dorfman book, The Mental ABCs of Pitching. He changed his delivery, but the mental side of it really kind of changed his life. You know, he kind of refocused himself, repurposed himself, but it also gave him purpose. He devoted himself to preparation. So no matter what, anytime he stepped on the mound, he felt like he was so prepared he couldn't fail. And he kept chasing that feeling. You know, he could not quit. You know, some pitchers, they might take a couple days off in between a start to kind of slack a little bit. He would not allow himself to do that. And that kind of later developed into some of his back problems, which kind of developed into some of his drug addiction, his painkiller addiction, which ultimately led to the downfall.
Todd, how much does the drug situation play into your book? I mean, what does it tell you about his character? We just saw this recent report about the investigation into the crash. How does that play into your book? And I apologize, I have not read it.
No, that's fine. Yeah, I devote quite a bit of it. Like, the last 7 chapters of the book are basically the final years of his life, and it gets into the reasons why he did it. And it was because, again, going back to that drive he felt. So his last 2 seasons with the Phillies weren't really good. He was dealing with some serious back pain.
Right.
And he was so compelled to be great that he started reaching for, you know, grasping at straws. And he started taking pain meds because he thought, maybe if I numb the pain, I can get back to what I was doing. Well, he couldn't get back to what he was doing, but then he became addicted to it. And he tried to get off those medications. He became depressed as a result of not being able to live up to his expectations. So he was battling pain. He was battling depression. He became addicted to multiple substances. And he did go to rehab twice. He was trying to kick the habit. And then talking to his wife, Brandy, in the book, and his other family members, they felt right before he passed away, right before he died in that plane crash, that he was starting to very slowly turn the corner and make improvements. And that's, you know, obviously it's tragic that, you know, regardless, but the fact that everybody thought that he was starting to kind of move in the right direction makes it even sadder, I think.
I will give you a lot of credit. You pull no punches in there. You cover it all, and you talked to everybody. I don't know how many dozens or hundreds of people you talked to, but it's so thorough. You know, you mentioned his wife. You clearly talked to his wife, to other family members, to everybody who ever coached him or played with him. I love the chapter on the catchers. He had this special relationship with all. I thought it was great. How many people did you talk to? You ever sit down and count?
I did. It was well over 100. You know, some people I just, you know, didn't end up using, but I tried to definitely get a hold of as many people as I possibly could. And I'm glad you like that chapter on the catchers, because those are the guys that knew him the best. And some of those stories of Roy in his early days, and even after that, of him just being so intense, and some of these young catchers being intimidated to catch him, and also taking extra pride when they got behind the plate and they had some success. So
yeah, they were afraid I love that they were afraid they would let him down if they screwed up.
Yeah, you know, and Rod Barajas, he caught for the Phillies for a year, and he's not a very popular Phillies catcher, but he was a pretty good catcher back in the days with the Blue Jays, and he was about Padres bench coach last year, and I sat down and talked to him. He got choked up talking about it. I mean, he kind of broke down at the very beginning, but he was one of those guys. He said, you know, with Roy, he was so prepared. He studied the hitters so much that he knew everything that he wanted to do for every batter. And he would instruct the catcher, this is what I'm doing. Stick with this until I tell you not to do it. One time, Rob Barajas saw something that B.J. Upton was doing. And he said, all right, I'm going to go with this and see if it was basically B.J. Upton moved in on the plate. Rob Barajas kind of motioned at it. He moved up, gave him a pitch that Roy specifically told him, do not throw this to B.J. Upton. He put down the fingers. Roy knew what he was doing, struck him out. And he said he walked back into the dugout and felt like he was king of the world because Roy Halladay, who, he just felt like he made him so proud. And that was one of his finest moments, I feel like.
That sounds like a great story. I wonder, Halladay was only in Philadelphia for a couple of years. I'm not sure who, really how it is that Philadelphia connected so well with him. I know that he's a huge competitor, but it did seem to go much more than that for Philadelphia fans. They really love that man.
I think they loved him because he had this. Well, first of all, I think they loved him because he wanted to come to Philly. He was with Toronto for years and years, and he had never made the playoffs. And he told his agent, they told the Blue Jays after the 2009 season, trade me because I am not resigning no matter, you could pay me $1 billion and I'm not resigning in Toronto. Like, I got to get to the postseason. So he gave them two teams. He said, trade me to the Yankees or trade me to the Phillies. And the Yankees, they weren't going to trade him to the Yankees. And Roy basically said, you have to trade me to the Phillies. So I think the fact that he wanted to come to Philly, he thought that this was the place to be. The fact that, that first season, obviously he pitched so well, but he loved the fan base. He loved the city. And I just think that competitive nature, the fact that he was like, almost like he was built like a Viking warrior is kind of the way I've kind of described him to people. He's 6'5", 240, he's jacked. He has that intense stare from the mound. He would intimidate umpires and other hitters. I think Phillies fans just love that about him.
Let me just tell you what a couple people are watching us are drinking. Deborah Day Girac is having a Rome City IPA from Brew Hub in Lakeland, Florida. Nice.
Wow.
Joanne Huffman, I'm sorry to lean over. Joanne Hoffman, Stroll Hoffman, is having Cape May Crushing It. And let me see what else we got here. Just look here. Denise McGuire. A lot of women watching. Must be because Todd's on. He's having an Allagash White. Thank her. We want to ask you one more question. Before we do, I just want to say this. I've been growing my pandemic beard. Joe Sixpack has had his for a while. Todd, yours is the worst I've ever seen. You look like Uncle Rico from Napoleon Dynamite, for God's sake.
This is not good. So I started growing this a week ago. I'm hoping that it'll finally grow in. But my dad had a great mustache for years and years and years. And so I decided, I'm going to see if I can match my dad. I think my dad's going to crush me, though, because he had a really awesome mustache for years.
You look like the high school kid trying to grow one before the prom. All due respect.
I look like a creepy dude, I just look creepy.
Before we let you go, there is a lot of talk about what baseball might be doing, when it might come back. 3 divisions is one thing, play in Florida, Arizona. I know it's all fluid. If we don't know, but your guess is more educated than ours. What do you think?
Well, I do think that they're going to play this season unless something big happens, something bad happens, like there's another second wave of the coronavirus or something like that. I think there's just a lot of incentive. There's a lot of money at stake. So you have owners, you have players, you have franchises that want to get back on the field. In terms of how it might look, boy, I think I bet you they probably have 10 different scenarios on how they could play, where teams could play and whatnot. The realigned, Eastern Division, I think sounds pretty cool. I read today that they might have workouts for 3 weeks in each team's city. So the Phillies would train for 3 weeks at Citizens Bank Park, which makes a lot of sense. Basically, I wouldn't rule out anything because it's super fluid. Who knows what the world's going to look like in 3 weeks from now?
Yeah.
Hopefully people continue to do the social distancing and keep the numbers down so we can get baseball and sports back, because I really miss it. Right? I mean, I was telling my wife the other day, I was like, this past week was the road trip I was looking forward to most all season. Phillies in Chicago, Phillies in San Francisco, two of my favorite cities.
Man.
I was going on both legs of that trip.
And Gabe Kapler.
And Gabe Kapler. It was going to be, I mean, what a great road trip. And you know, I'm here. So please bring baseball back.
You're there stuck in the house with 2 young kids.
I know. That's why I texted you earlier. I was like, is it 5:15 yet? I need one of these. Please hurry up.
The book is Doc, The Life of Roy Halladay by Todd Zolecki. Todd's going to join Ray Didinger and I on our show on Sunday, as a matter of fact. This is a great read. Everybody should order it. It's interesting. It's fun at times, and you learn a lot, too. It's really nice job by you.
Thanks a lot. I appreciate it. I had a great time. Thanks for having me. This is a great show. I like watching it.
Can't wait to drink with you again sometime. Hope you will save some of that beer for us there.
In Perps, and my mustache is going to be so sweet next time I see you guys.
Great.
All right, Todd. Be well. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, Joe Sixpack, let me tell you a few more things that people are drinking. Mike Vrieswijk, Temple, I believe the greatest player in the history of Temple basketball. I don't know. Mark Macon may disagree, is having an Anchor Brewing Christmas Ale from 2019. Is that still okay?
Sure, absolutely. It's one of my favorites. It's a great beer to cellar and try every year. But yeah, sure, why not? It's only a few months ago, right?
Speaking of Christmas beers, John Stevenson is having a Fegley's Rude Elf Reserve that he kept. He says Christmas in May. That's nice.
That's a fantastic beer. I love that beer.
Kevin Kelly, stuck in Florida till 3rd week of May. Hey, worst places to be stuck. Restaurant bars here are open. He is having a Big Wave Kona Golden Ale. All
right. So that's, I guess, that's the other Hawaiian brewery. I guess I think that one is actually owned by Anheuser-Busch, if I'm not mistaken.
All right. Well, there you go. All right. So you had a great idea for the show today. I just want to preface it by saying, if you look behind us, I'm in my office at home, which, hold on, let me move this around. I mean, it essentially looks like somebody's office at home. There's, you know, I got stuff on the shelf back there, but you, my friend, you've got your home bar, which means that you've got your home bar stuff.
That's right. I refer to them as home bar doohickeys. I don't know. That's an old school term, I guess. But, you know, I was interested because everybody that I know that has a bar has cool stuff that they've collected and they show on it. You can see behind me some of the stuff. I've got some, I'm going left to right here. You know, my Ortlieb sign, the Pike Brewing Brewery.
Yeah.
Over this shoulder here, that's the world famous artist who did the Dogs Playing
Poker. Never get tired of that one. That one's always great.
And I have lots of other stuff and I was wondering what other folks have in their bars, because people, I think, are proud of the stuff that they put in your bar. So I asked you, and we also asked our followers, what do you got in your bar? So you go first, Glenn.
All right, here you go. I don't have much because I don't have a home bar, but I collected things over time. So allow me to show you just a few of the things I've got, one of which I can't find. Here it is. I have a cork that I absconded with from the Phillies locker room in the 2008 Championship World Series. This champagne cork was opened in that locker room, so I saved that from that day. Okay?
All right, I'm going to see that and raise you a piece of turf from Veterans Stadium.
Don't let it touch your knee or you're going to shred your ACL.
Exactly. I think this is the piece that Wendell Davis tripped over and ruined his career.
For those who don't remember, Wendell Davis on one play at the Vet destroyed both knees and never played effectively again. All right. Well, that's pretty good. All right. So I have this. Hopefully you can see this if I hold it up. This is my autographed Skull Vodka. Actually, I forget. Let me, I'm going to try to remember the name of the company. Dan Aykroyd is marketing vodka, Crystal Head Vodka. And if you can see there, it is autographed by Dan Aykroyd.
I can. Cool.
Yeah, that shows up. Okay. And it's there. There's the bottle. And so I have it. I only ever had one drink off of it because I don't want to use it up just because it's autographed by Dan Aykroyd. So I kind of hold on to this one.
I'd drink it and fill it back up with water.
Yeah, I could do that.
Okay, so I've got lots of beer stuff, memorabilia, and I wanted to show this off because one of our loyal viewers, Bob Benash, gave this to me some years ago. This is a beer tray from Valley Forge Brewing. No longer exists. Some of our viewers, I'm sure, would remember it from lovely downtown Norristown. Old brewery that's no longer. Schmitz actually bought this, but this is actually in amazingly good shape, and they haven't made this beer in years. So,
nice thing to have.
Yeah.
All right. So speaking of the vet, I do have vet turf here somewhere. But what I also have from an Eagles game back in the day is this sign. If you can read that.
Nice.
No beer will be sold after halftime.
I think that was the official motto of Veterans Stadium.
I think this is what happened when they started to have the court in the vet and they really started to limit beer sales. They put those up, and somehow, I don't even know how, one of those found its way into my car and then into my house.
All right, so I'll finish up with my stuff here. I actually asked people, do you know what this is?
I would say, yeah, I'm guessing that's a piece of the runner on the boards at, I don't know if it was back in the Spectrum, maybe. It's, the bottom of the ice as the runner. Is that what that is?
That's not a bad guess. And it's really hard to tell from this, from the angle, and you might not get it. I bet you some of our viewers know what this is, because this is a seat slat that I got when I went to the last game at Connie Mack Stadium, last Phillies game there, and they gave these to the fans. As you walked in,
as you walked in?
As you walked in, you got these things. These were actually the reserve seats. Fans will remember they were painted red. The bleachers were painted a sickly pink. They were horrible color. But anyway, as you can see,
yeah,
it also made a pretty darn good weapon.
Yeah, that seems problematic.
It was. On the last day, the fans took it upon themselves to begin the destruction of Connie Mack Old Shibe Park well before the end of that game against the Expos. It was unbelievably wild game. Fans running onto the field. I remember Don Money playing third base, and
I think he got the last hit there.
Did he get it? Really?
He either got the last hit there or the first hit at the vet. I just remember he was the answer to a trivia question.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
It was one or the other.
It was I don't know, it was just a wild game, but it's one of my great memories. I went with, my aunt took me along with my cousins, and I believe my brother went with me too. And
wow.
It was.
And you've still got that.
Absolutely. I would never get rid of it. I'm going to get myself buried with it or
all right. So we asked our audience to give theirs, and you, being a creative and technical wizard, tried to create a slideshow, which hopefully we will be able to get up there.
I will, I think, and let's see if I can do it.
All right. While you're doing that, look, looks like you got it. Let me tell you that's, oh, there you go. Look at this.
We're going to load this up. Okay, here's a few other things. Hold on, let me go back here to this. Is
the Bednarik picture. Sure.
Great sports stuff. But I need to go back to the first one there. This is people always have great memorabilia from old breweries around Philadelphia. Ortlieb's and Schmitz are two. Yeah. Old cans and such. It's a wonderful.
That keg is a tap handle, I'm guessing.
I think it is. I believe it's hard to say.
Yeah, it's great.
Okay, and yes, over to this to me is maybe the. Sorry, we're not seamless here at What's Brewing.
Yeah.
This is the maybe the iconic photo of all time.
So that one does appear to be signed. I can't read it close enough, but I will tell you that Chuck Bednarik loved signing those with what he announces he said at that moment, which is, "This game is fucking over." Which he said over the prone body of Frank Gifford.
It was. That's Frank Grifford. And what game was that, Glenn? I'm trying to.
That was the game that put them into, I believe, the 1960 championship game.
Against,
they beat the New York Giants.
Right, and then they went and beat the Green Bay Packers after that.
Only playoff loss of Vince Lombardi's career.
Right, right. What a great photo. I actually interviewed Bednarik one time. He was a great gentleman. He was.
I interviewed Bednarik one time on the air before the Eagles Super Bowl, the 2004 Super Bowl, and Bednarik was obscene, and I had to dump the interview because he didn't understand that on FCC-controlled radio you can't say those things. I had to bail out of it. I felt terrible.
Well, that's Scott Piscaglia, I guess is how he says his name. It's a great picture. I'd love to have that in my bar.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's see. Well, of course,
Yeah.
Every good home bar needs a dartboard, and this guy, Andrew Colligan, looks like he's got a nice setup there.
That's a nice one. I remember I learned from you when we did the show at Conchi Phoenixville, the Rec Room, that when we did a thing on bar games, you said the first dartboard in America was at a bar in Philly.
That's right. I think in the Nicetown section it was made. So that's kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
I hope these pictures are making it onto.
Yeah, they are. I'm
okay.
looking there. Well, that's good.
This is the Philly Beer Week logo. That actually, this was a little bit of trivia here. This came from the mind of Kurt Decker, who runs a brew pub. He used to run the old Notting Head Brew Pub, and then he opened up Second District in South Philly. He drew this on a cocktail napkin, I remember, during the forming weeks of Philly Beer Week. And this logo, I don't think they use the logo anymore, but we made a bunch of these things and they got distributed. A lot of people have them in their bars.
Nice. I would love one of those. Sure.
It's cool. A few bar openers or beer openers here. The one on the from Joe Getz is sort of a high-tech one. And a familiar name, Blaine Russell, who is a friend of the family.
I love those.
Has these great openers. I think they're iron openers at the Earl Collectibles. They're pretty cool.
I got to guess those are 100 years old.
I don't know. I think you put them on the wall. I actually have one in my home, so it's really neat. Kind of crazy looking. So I wanted to finish to this one because we got the same basic piece of memorabilia or collectible from two different viewers, Rick Nagel and Frank Keel, shared them. I love this. I think it was Frank that said it was just, his wife made him put it in the bar. Maybe it was Rick. I'm not sure which, but to be honest with you, I think that's where a lot of these things come from, is stuff. It goes into your bar because your wife does not want it. Your significant other does not want it anywhere else in the house.
No, that's not going in the living room. Frank Kill, of course, a major city power broker, and I love the picture of Sinatra behind it. I mean, he's got a nice setup going there.
Yeah, really. So,
all right.
Anyway.
That was a good job. Good stuff by you. Before we get out of here, let me just tell you a few things that people are having. Whoopsie. Hot Rod Yacht is having a Yards Pale Ale. That's just always a great classic. This guy is having says I picked up a growler of Rum Monkey a couple of months ago, drank half of it in one evening. Ooh.
Wow. I'm not sure what that one is. Is that maybe?
I'm guessing it's a version of Golden Monkey.
Yeah, I imagine it is. So.
All right. Anyway, well, I think that's going to wrap it for us. Anything we forgot to discuss?
No, we're loving doing the show. Really appreciate Todd coming on and talking about his book. That was, I'm definitely looking forward to reading that this summer. And I really wish baseball would come back. I so miss it so much.
Yeah, I ESPN now is a commercial about how you miss sports, and I watched it the other night, and a tear formed under my eye. It was really something. We really appreciate everybody who tunes in, watches us here, and joins us, and the social interaction we get. We hope to be back on NBC Sports Philadelphia sometime when the world resumes. And we hope everybody's doing okay. We know it's tough for everybody during this time, and we certainly want to also send a shout out to I know, not so tough for you.
Actually, before we leave, I forgot almost, Glenn. I'm sorry. This is
okay.
We got
Oh,
a rice beer.
That's right.
We were doing a scientific experiment here. We
Yes.
forgot to
All right.
see
So
the results.
it's Yingling ice cubes and a Victory. What's the beer?
Homegrown American lager from
Okay.
Victory, and it was the Yingling Flight. It's an ice.
All right. So you got a lager and a lager, more or less.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see how this goes. Wow, that's weird. All right, so it really chilled it down. It did a good job of chilling it down to a good flavor or to a good temperature. Unfortunately, it created sort of a weird lime or lemon flavor in it. I don't know where that came from.
Really?
But yeah, and clearly, because this was melted a good bit, I would say those ice cubes are about half the size of what they were when I put them in, and it's watered down a good bit. Seems like.
Mixing 2 beers in 1 glass is probably never a good idea. I'm going to stick, when I need to have my beer cold, with these babies, which are stainless steel ice cubes, which work very effectively, or just drink it fast enough that it's not a problem. We want to just give a quick shout out to all of the first line responders, everybody in the medical field, everybody who's delivering stuff for us, everybody who's working in supermarket or trucking in the chain supply. All of the jobs that we realized are way more necessary and essential than our jobs. We salute you and appreciate what you're doing. Make sure you follow us. He is at at beer_radar on Twitter. I'm at Real Glen Macnow. The show is at What's Brewing PA. We'll see you next Friday. Thanks everybody for tuning in. For Joe Sixpack, I'm Glen Macnow. Hang in there, everybody. Cheers.
Cheers.